Welcome to Resurrection TV, a session all about television's industry obsession with bringing back TV shows from the past. Before we start anything, let's introduce our panel. We've got creative director of Endemol and host of Pointless and Two Tribes, Richard Osman. The brilliant Richard Osman. Next up, we have the co-founder of Znack and Jones. It's Natalka Znack. And lastly, we have top stand-up who is getting amazing reviews at the festival this year, and rightly so. He should be on TV a lot more. It is Joe Lycett. Now, let me tell you, later in the session, they are all going to be wanting your vote because they are going to pitch to you a show from the past that they think should become the present, and you are going to be the judges. I'll tell you how that's going to work a bit later on.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you've got a pitch.
I'm going to work on my...
You've got, oh yes, oh yes.
Let me look at the room.
Before we do any of it, let's take a look at some shows that have been recently rebooted. Here they are. It's incredible, really, isn't it? The amount of shows that have come back. I've got a list here as well of other ones that have come back. We've got Open All Hours, 15 to 1, Dallas, Red Dwarf, Thunderbirds, Gladiators, Minder, Blockbusters, Bionic Woman, The Clangers, Love Island, 24, Prisoner Cell Block H, Reggie Perrin, Whose Line Is It Anyway, All Star Mr. and Mrs. Twin Peaks, Prison Break, Room 101, Sunday Night at the Palladium, and Doctor Who.
Does Love Island really count as a comeback? That was only off air for about 2 years. That was more sort of someone remembered it. So we really must do another series of that.
Why do you think the broadcasters love it?
I think you know what? There's more of all telly at the moment. There's more new shows at the moment, and there's more old shows as well. They love it because we're in a format's industry really. That's where we make our money, and a great format never dies. You know, if you've got a talent show, Morecambe and Wise show, something like that, can only last a certain amount of time. A sitcom as well, it's rather reliant on its characters. But a format, something like Family Fortune, say, which I think is the best format ever created in terms of entertainment shows, you know, that'll go on forever. No reason why people are not going to be wanting to watch that in 100 years' time. So it's a brilliant game to play along. And if you're a host, who wouldn't want to present it? So, you know, there's always going to be that appeal for a broadcaster to have a brand that people already know, and an appeal for a host to have a brand that people already know, and an appeal for an audience.
It's also a gamble, though, isn't it, sometimes? Or is it that the audience feels safe with a brand, Salka?
I think it's the safety of the brand, but it was interesting. We were working with ITV on Name That Tune, and there was some research done on it, and half the audience was massive brand recognition. For the other half of the audience who were young, it was an entirely new show to them that they'd never heard of. And I think that was like really interesting, that you're sort of getting two bites of the cherry there, because the older viewers really love it, and for the newer viewers, it was something new and fresh.
Well, it's funny because when Catchphrase came back, and I'm doing a tour at the moment, and we do like a meet and greet after the show, and the amount of kids that do say to me, they think it's a new show.
Exactly.
A lot of those shows I don't recognise that you just read out then, but that's...
Which ones don't you recognise? I'm intrigued now.
Dallas,
which ones don't you recognise? Dallas.
Like, so, something like Open All Hours, I know of it, but I've not seen it. So, could be anything. And I wouldn't know.
What do you think?
It's not what you're thinking it is.
What do you think it is?
It sounds brilliant.
If you could have a guess, what would you say it is? Open All Hours.
Is it about like a co-op that's open for
all
hours?
It's a corner shop, yeah.
A corner shop, there you go.
What other ones? I'm intrigued. Pick two more.
15 to 1, I should know what that is because I've been on it. Bionic Woman. Don't know what that is.
I wonder what that could be.
How can you not have heard of the Bionic Woman?
Well, I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. I've not seen these things, so you could put them on telly and I'd sort of barely...
The Clangers, do you know the Clangers?
No.
Oh, who can do the whistle?
Joe, do the whistle. It's actually not bad.
Is that close?
I'm not even going to ask why you've got that. What shows have you enjoyed being rebooted, Joe?
I really liked the TFI Friday, because I do remember that, because that was sort of when I was emerging as a human being, not when I came out of the womb, but like sort of a bit later on. I thought that captured again that sort of anarchic feel that it had back then, and having the guy with an elephant for a stomach is, what isn't there to love about that? I also liked, wasn't billed as a comeback, but when I did the comeback of You Bet, which was called Epic Win, I liked that
Which
because...
you did that, that was your job, wasn't it?
That was my job,
up.
so I liked it because I got some money for it.
But can you do it for us now, for those that have never seen? What Joe had to do was just pop up from behind like a sofa or something and do one line, which was...
Epic win! Again, what isn't there to love about it?
Did they bring it back?
No, it lasted one series.
See, it's interesting because it's actually it's ITV and Sky essentially who bring back these formats, and that's for a commercial reason. And the BBC tend not to, but the BBC a few times recently have attempted to bring back things. So Epic Win was You Bet by any other name, essentially.
Yeah.
And the guest list, which I thought was brilliant with Rob Brydon, was Blankety Blank. I mean, it's virtually identical. And I think Blankety Blank would be a great show to bring back, but the BBC, there's not the mood at the BBC to bring things back, so they brought back guest list instead, which I think also is not coming back, but because it was too similar to Blankety Blank.
Interestingly, though, in the pilot for the guest list, it was Mrs. Brown. How important do you think it is to have the right host? Do you think they can save a show?
Yeah, I mean, definitely Through the Keyhole with Keith Lemon, I think it just brings such magic and humour to that sort of reinvents it. So, very important. And we've had some fun going through a number of hosts on Name That Tune to get it right, because actually getting the right host is everything, I think, on a reboot. Because you don't want to just, you know, replicate what happened before. You want to give it a new identity. And I think that comes from the host.
How do you go about getting the rights to something as iconic as Name That Tune? How does it work?
I had a meeting with a very interesting man who had just acquired the format, who interviewed us, and it was a very interesting process actually, because it was our company had just been formed, so we were brand new, and he was talking to all the Fremantles, everything. I mean, obviously we sort of had a reputation by name, but not the company. And I just made a pitch, which I just sat in the room and said, I absolutely love this show. I watched it as a kid. So I made that very, very personal pitch. And I said, the reason I really, really want it is because if I get to ring my mum and tell her that I'm doing Name That Tune, she'll be really, really happy. And it just worked with him because he was a family man. So, you know, he went for the personal pitch, and also I think we ended up with that format because and this is another bit about format, the format owners love their shows and want lots and lots of attention. It's their baby.
And money.
Yeah, money.
Is what they're keen on.
But he really did want to talk a lot and every day, and he just felt like he wouldn't get that with a big company, whereas with us, we did talk and spend a lot of time with him.
And it's definitely going to happen?
I don't know, ask Claire. No.
Claire Zolkwa?
We're still discussing it.
Okay. So it's interesting because, you know, some of these shows are bulletproof, genuinely. I do think something like Family Fortunes is bulletproof. I think whereas something like Catchphrase, you need a great, enigmatic, charismatic host to carry the new one. But there are some shows, it's interesting when they bring back Celebrity Squares, for example. Now, no one really says this, but that's not a big hit. That wasn't a big hit show. It wasn't a big hit show. It went on for a long time, because shows did go on for a long time back in the 70s and 80s, but not a big hit and not big name recognition either. So it's a slightly harder sell, but people have heard of it, but there's not that love for that show. And it's interesting with 15 to 1 as well, is actually, it was always sort of the younger brother of Countdown. It was never a huge hit, 15 to 1, is the truth. So people, in their memories, remembered it as a certain thing and loved it, but it wasn't a huge hit show. And there's very, very few shows, actually, that are massive hits and that can take, you know, that you can do 10 times, 15 times.
Well, do you know something? Obviously, bringing back classic shows, for me personally, was the amazing thing when Catchphrase came about. I will let you into a little story now that I've never said in any interview or anything. Obviously, Roy Walker hosted Catchphrase for 17 years.
I liked him.
Yeah.
He was good.
But when it was announced, the Sun in the TV biz, they did like a big splash, and they put a picture of Roy Walker up, put a picture of myself. And slightly, I was like, oh, you know, this is a big deal, a massive deal. And I remember when the call came through, and so about 4 days later, I saw Roy Walker. I was literally walking down the Strand, just a street off the Strand, and I saw Roy Walker walking towards me, and I hid behind a car.
So you hadn't met him before? You didn't speak to him about it?
Never spoke to him. But literally, can you imagine if, like, the car's there and he literally came behind him and went, "What are you doing?" It would have been the worst thing in the world.
So have you spoken to him?
No, I've never heard anything from him.
He could be absolutely livid, couldn't he?
You're not surprised that I haven't?
So what you see, Roy, is it coward hiding behind a car?
But lots of people say it's lazy to bring back these sort of shows. Honestly, let's go along the line. What do you think? Is it lazy, or do we need new ideas?
I don't think it is lazy. So I think as I say, there are so many new ideas in television now, more than there ever were. I mean, they're given fewer chances than shows used to be, which is why there are more iconic shows from the past. But you know, since we were talking the other day, I think we launched Pointless 5 years ago, and in the time that's been on, there have been just on daytime terrestrial TV 37 new quizzes. 37 brand new formats, you know, most of which fall by the wayside, but that's always the way. Some of which, like Tipping Point and various other things, have stuck around. But you know, there's an awful lot of new television out there, and we should be allowed to watch all the old stuff as well, because we love it. It's formats we enjoy, you know. And so honestly, I don't think it's lazy, because I know the people who commission it, and they spend their entire lives looking for new stuff as well. And you know, they work incredibly hard. But sometimes it's you know, it's an open goal sometimes.
What do you think?
Well, it's not lazy if you're doing something interesting with it. I think if you're just bringing it back, bang, as it was, then, you know, you've got to do something more. You've got to reinvent it. You've got to modernise it, and you know, and then why not?
And the old shows for you, Joe?
No, I think it's incredibly lazy, and everyone should get off their asses and do something new. No, I think it's great.
You've never seen any of them?
No, I've never seen any of them. I think it's good. Like these, as you say, there's brilliant formats that I haven't come across, and I would like to. So.
Right. Do you know what now? We are going to give you a chance to pitch an old show that you would like to see back on our TV screens. Remember, they are our judges out there right now, and they are going to see whether they like it or they don't. Richard, you're up first.
Yeah, I should have chosen something I own the rights to, but I haven't. What I'd really like to see back, this isn't my choice, is, but I was thinking about it this morning, is why doesn't someone do Kickstart again? I used to love Kickstart. That'd be easy to make, quite cheap. People like it, but I won't do Kickstart. The show I want to bring back is Rent-A-Ghost.
Oh, hello. It just makes you feel, it makes me feel really warm.
I'm just looking at Joe's face.
What the fuck is that?
It's a classic from our childhood.
You said earlier you were going to bring back Rent-A-Ghost, and I was like, well, I've never seen it, and I'll have a watch of this clip. What is that? I don't know what that is. So there's a horse on its back being tied up.
Well, do you know what? Rent-A-Ghost went through two slightly different eras, and that's very much the more pantomimic era. But the first series of Rent-A-Ghost was quite dark, and it was about a guy who'd failed in his life and didn't want to fail in the afterlife, and so he set up an agency where you could rent out ghosts, and other people who'd failed in their lives came back and tried to help people. And then it got slightly more pantomime-y, and Nadia Popov was in it, and a pantomime horse, and all that kind of stuff. But it's such a brilliant, high-concept bit of television, simple, everybody gets it, different adventures each week. Who wouldn't want to be in it? I changed the name for a new generation. I don't think Rent-A-Ghost fits. I would call it WeRentAnyGhost.com would be the title. Mr. and Mrs. Meeker, I am thinking Tamsin Outhwaite and Jason Statham would be great. And the three main ghosts, I would have Joe Lycett, Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba. And to me, you know what, UK, US, that feels like a hit.
I still don't know what it is.
Right, I just told you what it was. It's an agency where they rent out ghosts to help to do stuff for you.
But what's that, though?
If you've got a mansion house that needs haunting, just hire Rent-A-Ghost.
Gotcha. Okay. I don't think I'm going to be able to compete with that with anything. I think it sounds absolutely astonishing.
Oh, thank you. And you're happy to be in it?
Yeah, no, I'm in.
Excellent.
Great.
Which channel would you go for?
For Rent-A-Ghost, that, given how Claire just laughed, not ITV, let's say I would have thought it would be perfect for
straight to Netflix.
E4, straight Netflix. But of course it would be perfect for Netflix or Amazon Prime. They would love it. You know, you do turn it into hours. make it very dark, very moody, get David Arnold to do the music. You know, it's the new Waking Dead, isn't it?
Who hasn't seen Rent-A-Ghost in the audience? Oh my God!
Oh, well, that's a relief.
Wow.
Now I feel really old.
How about that? But
I'm
tell you what,
only 28.
If you come back next year and say who hasn't seen Rent-A-Ghost, all hands down, it's going to be such a huge hit. Idris Elba will be sitting next to me here, and we'll be talking about shooting the pilot.
Right, Natalka, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Which show would you like to bring back?
I want to bring back How. And I wonder how.
I remember this one.
Well, before we take a look, who has seen How before?
Oh.
Yeah, it's the same people that haven't seen Rent-A-Ghost. That's the worrying thing.
Yeah.
Let's take a little look at this.
Fred Dinage.
A couple of facts here, right? The original series of How ran from 1966 to 1981 on ITV, and then came back.
How do I remember that then?
Because it came back, it's already been back
again
once.
in 1990 to 2006. I was doing kids' TV at the time, introducing How to. So you've seen How?
Yes.
He's seen, he's seen the second reboot.
Yeah.
I'm suggesting we reboot it again. Had Fred Dinage on the first one and the second one.
Yes, because he rang a bell.
But I remember, obviously, from the first one, I just remember it as a kid. I can remember every single thing, trick and piece of information they taught me. I still remember and know now, so I love that about it. So I would bring it back with Fred Dinage. Why not? Third time lucky.
Let me just check. Yeah, he still is alive. That's good.
He is, I checked. Yeah. I'd put will.i.am on it because we need to know all about the future and all those gadgets and technology I don't understand. I put Joey Essex on it because he needs to learn a few things, and his description of the world would be brilliant. And I'd add these three, I think there's another still, three Christian fundamentalist children who I've been filming in America, who are incredible and whose view of the world is very, very different from most people. So I think you would get an amazing mix of information. And I'd also have sections where you can write in for kids, because this is inspired by my daughter, and I'm just using this as an excuse to read out a text she sent me last night. So this is for the write-in advice section. So I got this text from my daughter in America last night. Okay. Sorry I couldn't talk to you sooner. Daddy said we couldn't go on our iPads because we were getting ready for school and it would distract you. Did I tell you I might be a lesbian when I grow up? What do you think? Love you, Billy. She's 9, I've just outed her. I have absolutely no idea what she's talking about. But I'd like these people to advise her.
Do you know what would be ideal? At the end of that sentence, you went, but how?
And then Fred Dinage takes her through what you have to do. Here's your first steps.
I'm telling you, these three girls would not be happy with the lesbian thing, but it's against their faith. But anyway, so I'd add a write-in advice section.
Would you have less racist opening titles?
Yes, I was going to say we probably couldn't do the opening titles.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't really understand why it was a Red Indian thing anyway.
Well, because that was the traditional greeting in the Western films. How? For what they used to call Red Indians.
Oh, okay.
Not me.
They did a show, didn't they? I think it was with Des Lynam, like it was a primetime show.
Yeah.
How do they do that?
They do that, and then Eamon Holmes did it, the next series of it. But people love that. I mean, Discovery's full of those shows, isn't it? That's the beauty of it. They're all brilliant. My favourite is the one where they just go into factories and show you how they make tennis balls for half an hour.
Yeah, well,
that's really. I've seen that, and the sweets. They tell
I saw one the other day where they show you how they made Viennetta. I was in heaven, absolute heaven.
I've watched that show for hours with my daughter Billy, the lesbian.
But even the guy off MasterChef, what's his name? The bald guy off MasterChef, Greg Wallace. That's it. And he does a show where last time I watched it, it shows you how packing bananas. but it's slightly captivating in a bizarre way.
Have you, there's a thing that I get called ASMR. Are you familiar with it?
No.
It's a new sort of phenomenon. People have had get it for years, but they didn't know what it was. And I get it from when somebody folds paper very gently. I get this tingling feeling in the back of my head. And a lot of clips from old TV shows are getting very popular on YouTube because it stimulates this lovely warm feeling that you get.
How?
So, no, possibly clips from How, but it's things like craft shows and that sort of stuff. Actually, these clips are doing very well because it gives people this, it's called autonomous sensory meridian response, and it's this lovely, tingly, warm feeling.
So someone folds paper and you get turned on?
It's not quite turned on. I'm not...
Have you ever worked in a newsagent?
No, I should though, shouldn't I? But so you could, yeah, I think How could come back with that kind of, you know, in mind.
Well, the thing is, where would you pitch it? Who would you pitch it to? And at what sort of time?
You know what, you might pitch it to maybe Sky with a Will.i.am on it, because it's got the you know, the futuristic a bit.
I know they're looking for a vehicle for Fred Dinage and Will.i.am. I know that.
That would be a brilliant combination, wouldn't it?
Isn't it weird that you would have kids' programmes presented by people like Fred Dinage in the old days? That would never happen these days, would it? You'd never have any... But mind you, he was probably 34 when the first came out, wasn't he?
Yeah. Not on the second one, he would have been older.
But he wrote the definitive book on the craze as well, Fred Dinage.
Yeah.
Wow. Are you serious?
Yeah, he did.
Well, there you go.
It's an amazing book.
Joe, we are now to you.
Yes.
Which show are you going for?
I'd like to bring back Noel's house party.
Let me tell you, obviously they like it.
Yeah.
I loved it. Let's take a look at it. This is why, when they said about doing this, when you see shows like that, just brilliant. A couple of facts about it. The original series, Noel's House Party, ran from 1991 to 1999 on the BBC, and at its peak was watched by over 15 million viewers a week.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, incredible.
I think, so TFI Friday has a similar energy level. There's that sort of feeling of anything could happen. It's not produced, but obviously it is incredibly well produced.
What would you do with it?
So Noel Edmonds is out. And it would be anyone else called Noel hosting on a rotation.
Who would be up first?
Noel Gallagher. And they could bring their own sort of thing to it. So I imagine by the end of Noel Gallagher's house party, the channel would be over that it's on, and everyone would be dead. Then Noel Fielding, of course, who would again bring a probably more surreal thing to it. Noel Clarke. Noel from Hearsay. The grave of Noel Coward, which would just be like a very solemn hour of silence. And then just, yeah, literally anyone called Noel. I think we've got just a picture of someone called Noel. There you go, someone called Noel. Yes, also, every episode, Noel Edmonds would try and get back in. And everyone would go, "Not today, Noel." And there might be like a little clip of him weeping as he gets back into his car. What I loved is things like I'd forgotten that it was set in Crinkly Bottom, which now is such a tired old sort of gag, so it'd have to be something else now, wouldn't it? Like fat ass or something, I don't know, just something else. Yes, so that's
what about Mr. Blobby?
Oh, Mr. Blobby would still be around, but he'd be weathered and aged and a bit sort of fire worn. I imagine he's been in a fire. I don't know why. He's probably tried to put out a fire, but clumsily, and ended up killing everyone in like kind of Edward Scissorhands kind of way, because that's what he was always like, wasn't it?
Why do you think it was so successful? Because it was brilliant.
I think it was just, it's that level of energy and that madness. All of the gotchas were so well done. It was just, yeah, it was an event every weekend. I remember it very, very fondly and very vividly. And also it's just like, everyone wants to go to a house party that's like that, so it felt like you could do it in your own house.
I don't know how true it is, but apparently Noel did it without any earpiece.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Why?
Well, because who's he going to listen to? It's like, that's his dream. Absolutely. It's like my granddad used to turn off his hearing aid. See, it's interesting, something like House Party, because these are the ones that are much harder to reboot, because, you know, unless you've got the original piece of talent, it's like, you know, you couldn't actually recreate the same thing. A format is very tight, and you can do the same thing, and you can parachute anyone into it. But something like Noel's House Party is sort of, you know, it was a place and time. And with TFI, obviously, Chris has come back, because it was slightly more recent. And you know what, you could bring back House Party with Noel, but I don't think there's an appetite for that at the BBC.
Also,
would be my
I think,
guess.
you know, with Saturday Night Takeaway as well, it's, you know, it's the closest thing to it, isn't it? In terms of...
Yeah.
Hang on, but Noel from Hearsay.
Oh yeah, it'd be great. Noel Sullivan.
I bet they're chomping at the bit at the Beeb for that, I'm
also,
sure.
imagine the TV presenters changing their name to Noel at this very moment, knowing they've got a definite gig.
Well, do you know what? From me, Noel Mulhern, we are now going to decide which one our audience here at the TV Festival want to bring back. So we're going to do it by cheer. That's the easiest way, OK? So first up, we've got Rent-A-Ghost. If you want to bring Rent-A-Ghost back, cheer now. Yay! Richard, you are in the lead. Natalka, who would like to bring back Hal? Not bad. Not bad at all. And finally, we've got, with all the different Noels, Noel's House Party. So you're going to have to decide. It is close.
I think I won.
Everyone's a winner.
No.
Oh, really?
It sounded like Hal to me, I
Yeah,
have to say.
I think
No,
it's
do you know
Hal.
something? And they just said in my
Hal.
ear as well. It is.
Yeah, brilliant.
Hal is going to come back, everyone!
Red Diamond.
No, do you know something? I've absolutely loved doing this. It's been an absolute pleasure. But we've actually already come to the end of the session. Can you believe that? Oh. What are the chances? And it's only 5 to 3, which means everyone can now get off their nut again. I hope you've enjoyed it, everybody. Thank you so much for listening, so much for watching. Please let's hear it for our panel. And from me, Steve Mulhern, lovely to see you all, and have a safe journey home wherever you're going. We'll see you soon. See you later. Bye-bye.